To order. This is the one meeting of the year where I open the meeting as the school committee is reorganizing. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the school committee meeting again of April 8th. The hybrid meeting is being recorded and may be accessed by WebEx. The meeting link is on the calendar at burlington.org. Again, if any board members are remote, which there are none, we don't need a roll call vote. If connectivity is lost and we have a quorum in person, the meeting will continue. I'd like to start with the equity statement. Educational equity means that every child belongs and receives whatever support they need to develop their full academic, emotional, and social potential to learn and thrive every day. This begins with kindness and the valuing the humanity of every child and individual. We could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As this is the first meeting of a new term, I'd like to accept any nomination for school committee chair.
I'd like to nominate Melissa Masato.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstaining. That's unanimous. Ms. Massardo, thank you.
Thank you. All right, to move on with the reorganization, I'll look for nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Catherine Vaughn for vice chair.
Second?
I'd like to question the nomination. So Ms. Vaughn has previously served as school committee chair. There's other members of the committee that have chaired other committees, and as a professional development, I think it would be courtesy to nominate those folks. And I'd like to also nominate myself.
I nominate John Ray.
Is there any other comments? All those in favor?
Of what?
The motion on the floor?
What's the motion?
Catherine?
We have to spell it out.
Catherine was moved and seconded, correct?
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Jeremy? Also vote no. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you, Catherine. All right, does everyone here have in front of them the existing assignments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to just say that I think because Jeremy is a recreation commissioner, he's a full commissioner,
Yeah.
that we should vote to make that a formal approval. So I move that we appoint Jeremy as the recreation commissioner from the school committee.
Second.
All right, any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Sorry. All right, 5-0. Jeremy is the recreation commissioner. Okay. I'm happy to go through if folks want to go through. Does anyone want to change any assignments?
I just want to make sure we add there's one missing here, and it's the policy subcommittee, which is myself and Megan.
Marianne on the phone.
It's number 18.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, it is on here, I'm sorry. It's number 18. Didn't see it.
Okay. What do we need to do about the formal appointments?
Separate votes.
Separate vote? Okay. So anyone want to change an assignment? No?
Do you want to vote?
Yeah,
All right, so I move that we approve number 2 through 23 as printed.
questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote aye, 5-0-0. All right, are we making appointments one by one, or?
We have to.
Okay.
So I move the school committee designee to the lab collaborative.
Dr. Conte.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand this. Why are they not numbered differently? The school committee designated the lab collaborative as Eric Conti.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye. I move the civil rights coordinators be Kerry Lampy for students and Joanne Faust for staff.
Second.
Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move
5-0.
Title IX sexual harassment coordinators Lisa Chen for students, Joanne Faust for staff.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye. And I move that the school committee recording clerk is Mary Ann Fabry.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye, 5-0-0. All right. We are reorganized. We have a warrant. Here. Any questions on the warrant?
I move we approve the warrant as submitted.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote, any opposed? I vote aye, 5-0-0.
I move we approve the meeting minutes from 3/23/25 as submitted.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote aye, 5-0-0. All right, so I'm going to take the old business out of order and move it to be the next agenda item after public participation. So we will be following up on the old business of the survey. So I will provide a public comment on that agenda item. Before this public comment, is anyone here to speak about something that is not related to the survey? Sir. A reminder, we have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Vincent Takala. I live on 9 Laurel Lane in Burlington. I'm here on behalf of my neighbors and myself for the public garden expansion. I have a list of questions I'd like to answer. Is there drawings that were submitted about the expansion of the public garden?
You can submit the questions and we'll get back to you on the question.
All right. Why aren't the abutters to the property of the school being notified? Why isn't it going to the planning board? Just like your new school at Fox Hill would. Is Peter Capola employed by the town of Burlington? Has there been a property line survey completed prior to this voting? Are the plots that are being rented on public school ground having query checks for the people renting them? There's cars parking on Laurel Lane they're not supposed to be. Has conservation been notified about trees being cut down over there? The original garden was supposed to be at Mary Cummings Park. It went to the planning board. There was decisions made for it to go to the planning board to Mary Cummings Park. Why didn't this go to the planning board? Those are my questions.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Did you get his name?
Do we have your name, sir?
Vincent Takala.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
I have Kim online. We are going to unmute, and then you're able to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Kim Negron. I've spoken up previously. I wanted to take a moment to thank the school committee for moving the regularly scheduled school building committee meeting that was originally scheduled for this week to next week. But I do feel compelled to speak up that with it now being held on April 17th, being the day before April vacation essentially starts for everybody, that's a big day where people are commuting to see their families, going on vacation, etc. And I just wanted to ask the school committee to please ensure that that when voting respectfully, please put equal weight into the values and opinions of voters who aren't always able to attend these school building committee meetings in person. One school building committee member previously suggested that folks who may not attend those meetings regularly may not be voters, and thus our opinions are not as valid, but that could not be further from the truth. And I just wanted to remind the committee that we will show up to vote when the time comes. And there's over 350 people who have signed the petition thus far who are willing to help out in any way that we can. So please consider them active participants.
Thank you. I have Carrie. You can unmute now.
I'm here to read a letter that was submitted to each member earlier today. To the Burlington School Committee, we are writing in reference to the public comments raised at the April 1st school committee meeting by parents concerned about the youth risk behavior survey. While we share some of the speakers' concerns and believe there were many points of failure for which the district and school committee need to be held accountable, we are alarmed by the use of this situation to amplify dangerous rhetoric, conflating queerness with deviance, grooming, and pedophilia. Perhaps more so, we were very disappointed to watch the school committee allow these narratives to sound with no rebuttal. This feels disappointingly similar to the Pride incident of 2023, when parents with a political agenda used the American flag and its colors to suggest that queerness was somehow unpatriotic. Several members of the LGBTQ plus community, allies, and veteran community spoke about that then, and yet 2 years later, here we are in a similar situation, except the same group of parents with the same agenda are using a valid concern shared by many to scapegoat the LGBTQ plus people, and the school committee allowed it to happen uncontested. Let's not forget the purpose of the Youth Risks Behavior Survey, which not a single member of the school committee or district administration explained to the parents who spoke on April 1st. It is to identify at-risk groups in the hopes of providing them with better support. The latest survey suggested that the LGBTQ plus students were significantly more likely than heterosexual students to ever experience sexual violence. We should be protecting our LGBTQ plus kids, families, and staff instead of alienating and scapegoating them. We hope you will address this at the next school committee meeting. Thank you. Signed, many residents of Burlington.
Thank you.
You're going to take input or?
Yeah, we have it's here, but we'll discuss, the agenda item is upcoming. Do I have any more letters not related to the survey?
Right here.
Okay.
This is the garden, how bad?
My name's Mark Gerbrands. I live at 3 Laurel Lane. We could probably free up some seats back here. We have a little problem going on with the garden, with the neighbors. I don't know if you guys know anything about the garden? Because Vinny just got up and you all looked like you had no idea what was going on.
So in general, this is a option for you to provide public input, but this is not a dialogue.
Okay, so what we're looking for is, we got a new neighbor that moved in. They're gonna be cutting down trees. Nobody knows where the property line is. So more or less, I'm asking to see if we can at least get the land surveyed, so the new neighbor's not losing his trees, the town's not taking his trees, vice versa. Just to get a property line surveyed, have it plotted out so we know what trees are coming down. None of us have been notified on anything going on. So if we can just have a little bit of communication, that's all. I don't know where we go with this. We have nothing against the garden. We were just told, trees are being cut down, a new neighbor moved in, the prior neighbor had a problem with it. Looking to protect the new neighbor, that he doesn't lose his privacy on the buffer zone. If you guys can just look into it, get back to us. And they already been cutting trees. Hopefully, they're not on his property. So-
Dr. Conti has both names, correct?
Yeah, and Mark, I'll.
Yeah, that's all, it's just so we can get out of here.
Yeah,
You know,
Bob,
I've got enough going
who's
on
doing
tonight.
that? Is it Rec that's doing, or is it a private?
It's a private company.
DPW, okay.
They are doing it?
Yeah, they started cutting.
We had 30-foot buffer that we pushed to
Yeah.
25 feet, so we need to make sure we address that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure we know where the property line is, for the neighbor, because, the old neighbor said the property line was here, the garden committee said it was here, and then they stopped cutting trees, a year or so ago. Now, that neighbor has moved, a new neighbor moved in. Jonathan, he's fine with it, but he just wants to make sure we're not going over the wrong boundaries here, and, just to give him a little bit of a buffer, so, he's got little kids, he doesn't want to, have people coming over from the garden, crossing through or whatever. So if we can just look into that.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mark.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Can I just add to? My name is Lee Martirano. I live at 1 Laurel Lane. My biggest concern is that they've added beehives down there, and we would like to know who's managing them. Have the hives been registered? And why have, there's been a rock barrier at the end of our street since 1983. Those rocks in the last week have been moved, and this is allowing access to people to access the gardens from Laurel Lane, which is posted on the rec department sign that there is to be no parking on Laurel Lane. But yet they continue because there is a project going on at Francis Wyman, and we would like to know when that project may be completed so that they can start accessing from the Francis Wyman parking lot, which is where they're supposed to be parking. And because we've had a lot of traffic, we dealt with it all last summer with people, and they don't respect the speed limit, and the street is only 5 houses long, and they're flying down the road, so they're small kids. And we would like that to stop.
Thank you. We will add the community garden as a future agenda item.
I have a picture of the beehives if you would like me to submit it.
Yeah, Bob.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, those hands are existing
I
hands.
got one more thing, if I could add to it.
Yeah.
My name's Vincent Takala, for the record, at 9 Laurel Lane in Burlington. I'd like to know who's paying for this, for the public garden to be constructed and maintained, and what budget it's coming out of.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Karen Grossi, 7 Laurel Lane. 10 years ago, when the garden was proposed, and there was some controversy and some issues with the neighbors, and we came before the school committee, and we ironed it out that the school committee would let us know if they were going to make any changes, which didn't happen now that there's going to be an expansion, and that the people would be mandated to park at the Francis Wyman and not at the end of Laurel Lane. And so that hasn't been happening. And I'm just concerned with the traffic flow. I'm concerned with the beehive situation. I guess Mr. Capola told some people private people who live on Washington Street that they could put their hives there. I don't think that's a good idea to have beehives on the school property. But once again, that's how Mr. Capola operates. He goes beyond what he's given permission to do. That's what we found in the past. So we have a lot of concerns, and we're just very disappointed that we weren't notified. We want to just be, well, we have to read about it on the Burlington Buzz, and this directly affects us. So that's all I really have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, so we're going to bring up old business regarding the survey. As we all agreed that many of the youth risk behavior survey questions were inappropriate for our middle schoolers, and there were many operational errors and mistakes that caused further impact. As the school committee role is primarily designed to set policy, We've worked on 2 different drafts of potential policies. Dr. Chen found the Concord survey policy. Some of the items we've discussed or feedback we provided to Dr. Conti were a requirement to notify parents along with the ability to opt out, notify more than once, an ability for parents to review the full survey on the school website, and an explicit statement that district staff shall ensure that students understand that participation is voluntary. And Dr. Conti, I know you wanted to talk about the next steps for the policy.
Well, I think the next steps for the policy is the school committee needs to sort of agree on some language, and then I need to have the school committee attorney review it, and then we need to do a first reading and a second reading like we would do with any policy. I have some questions that I need to answer. I've gotten some email questions, and some of them have been, I've gotten the same questions from multiple people, so I'm working on those answers, and we're planning on sort of posting all those questions, frequently asked questions and answers as soon as I sort of finish getting those answers, and then we'll sort of put all the information out there. So I think that's it. But I think if you guys have policy language, or even versions of different policy language, or even a motion that you want me to sort of move forward with, I can certainly move forward with that.
Clarifying question, Madam Chair.
I have a motion, but whatever.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
So are we talking about 2 policies I submitted that were passed out yesterday, or is there another policy we're talking about? Because Dr. Chen's I submitted 2. Is there another policy we're talking about?
I think the goal would be to use those policies to create a Burlington policy. And one thing I want to ask Dr. Conti, and then I'll entertain the motion, is when you would expect to have the FAQ compiled by so that we don't lose momentum.
Well, probably right after break. I need some time before break to
May.
sort of talk
Sounds
to some
good.
people.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oops, I touched the microphone. I just want to make a motion, which is sort of a placeholder until we have the policies developed. So I move to suspend use of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey at both the middle school and the high school until a formal policy, or more than one, is written and approved by the school committee. The policy should include approval of the entire document, including questions, definitions, everything on the document, by both the superintendent and the school committee.
Second.
Questions?
So by your motion, we'll still participate in the survey
No,
after? Okay.
We haven't,
not until we
Until we
determine
have
it.
a policy.
we have to write the policy first.
Policies, this survey's not due to be given for 2 more years.
Right.
So, yeah.
I just want to clarify. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly.
And this suspends the whole thing until we come up with a better plan.
Okay.
So what about other surveys that are potentially going out in the meantime? We don't have a date set where we're going to have a policy created and agreed upon, so I think we should amend Mrs. Monaco's motion to include no surveys until we have a policy set about how parents are notified and what type of consent we've decided on.
Is that okay?
Do we know, through the chair, do we know what surveys are coming up?
I'm not aware of any, so I think that would be,
Mr. Kinna?
I intend in June or July to have a transportation survey of the parents.
I think that's different.
I think it's,
Yeah.
my intention was surveys that are going out to students, not parents.
Yep.
Okay. So does someone want to second that
Do you
amendment?
want to amend your motion?
Just second the amendment.
Oh, I'll second it with the changes that Megan suggested.
Okay.
And Marion's not here, but I assume she's got it. Any more, yeah, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion on the heels of Ms. Monaco's. I'd like to move that we remove JSI as a consultant, we remove the funding for them as well.
Make it a separate motion.
Yeah,
Making a
let's
separate
put that
motion,
after. Good with this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I vote aye, 5-0. Motion passes, yeah.
And I just, if I could, through the chair, I just want to make a statement too. In relation, so I was unable to make the meeting last week due to business travel. I did watch and understand the concerns of parents who spoke up. I agree the content in the survey was more explicit than is appropriate for a younger age group who took the youth survey. There are other issues and concerns brought up which will take time for the school committee along with Dr. Conti to investigate. I understand that we might want answers and detailed responses now, but please let us spend the time on this it deserves so we can get to the root cause of each concern and provide a well-thought-out solution to present to you all at a later date.
There's one other thing, and then we have Jeremy's motion. It is my intention that the opt-out, opt-in question will be part of the policies that we come up with. That was not left out of the motion that we made. I know some parents are concerned about the opt-in and opt-out, and that will be part of the new policies.
Go ahead.
Make the motion again?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'd like to move, we remove JSI as a consultant and remove their funding from the budget.
Second, but I have a question. Has that
We
already?
already did that, right?
Yeah, haven't we already done that?
It wasn't officially, like, we didn't officially vote on anything, so it was a
Yeah.
little ambiguous in my mind after the end of last meeting, so I just want to make sure we codify it.
That's fine.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, just voted.
Sure. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. All right, anything else?
That's all I've got.
All right. Do folks still want to make comments?
Yes.
Go ahead. Yep.
Go to the microphone. I'm going to try to remain calm, but I'm still very, very angry. And I will get transparency, 100% transparency, because, well, you guys are doing your research. I've been doing my research. So Wilmington is completely 100% transparent. And as of April 7th, they halted their youth risk behavioral survey after seeing the train wreck that expired on April 1st. Congratulations to them. But they are 100% fully transparent. You can go on their public website and you can see every survey that's been asked of the children and all the survey questions. And they actually have a lot of parents highly involved in it. It's very upsetting that there was zero transparency across the board for so many things. It's upsetting. I don't know what it's like to have a child, an LGBTQ child. I love all children. I want it equally. I'm tired of the, people are saying it's political. I'm not bringing politics in the school. I want every kid to feel safe. I want equal rights for all children, but I also want rights for my children. I'm tired of this constantly in her face. I'm tired. She just wants to come to school and learn. Learn math, which is a cluster, learn science, and be educated. Not educated on politics, she wants to be a kid. I like to preserve her innocence. She's my last one. I want to enjoy her. So I want to go on the record with, I want full transparency of who was on this wellness committee, the names, the individuals of everyone on the wellness committee. I went back through your meetings and your review of gender, and I see review of questions. You had December 5th, you wrote YRBS, review of all questions will happen by the end of January. Administration will happen in March of 2025. And I still don't understand how you had it on 2 meetings and none of you vetted the questions. None of you vetted the questions, none of you made sure it was an opt-in survey, and none of you made sure that every single parent was aware of what was going to go out on that survey in the contents of those questions. Those are very, very sexual-based questions. They talked about anal sex. They talked about sex toys. I have a slew of gay friends. I have friends that are transgender and go to drag queens. They don't request that I take my children to these and participate in these events. They don't have this stuff around my children. They don't even have around in their life. So it's extremely frustrating that it was done the way that it was done. And if you click on the Wilmington Public School, and I can give you the link, it does show all the years the survey was entered, all the questions on the survey, and all the parent input. So I just have a really hard time finding how Burlington didn't have any communication of this prior knowledge to any of the parents. I also, before Jeremy stated, we definitely should suspend our contract. Here is the Middlesex League 2023 Youth Rec Sergeant Perv. This is the contract from Wilmington. We are listed in this town contract. I have never seen the Burlington contract. I am requesting on the record a copy of the contract, and I am requesting all questions that have been given the minute we made this contract official with this company, because I haven't seen any of those questions at all. But it says right here, the contract will perform the following service for 10 public school districts that are part of the Massachusetts Middlesex Leagues. These 10 schools are Arlington, Belmont, Burlington, Melrose, Reading, Stoneham, Wakefield, Wilmington, and Winchester and Woburn. See the attached documents. So it says, breaks down to $7,000 for each of the 10 participating schools, a total of $70,000. We're paying this for these survey questions. These survey questions that weren't vetted, that had highly sexual contact, that abused we're paying for people to abuse our children. Do you see my anger? Because as a parent, my job is to protect my child. My job is to fill in where you guys can't get it right. But you just can't get it right across the board. So it's very infuriating that every member here last week said that they just did not vet these questions and that they did not do their diligence. This should have been an absolute opt-in survey. Every parent, when that question hit Parent Square, should have got questionnaires attached to it so we could review the content and we could make the decision what we felt was appropriate for our child. People assume because my daughter's 16, that's where she is. Do you know what she did last weekend? She went to the movies with a bunch of her friends in Minecraft pajamas, and they went to the movies. I'm grateful that she's doing that at 16, but is anyone from the Board of Health on this wellness committee? And what is the data and the risk factors that you guys have received that warrant the questions and the risk behaviors that you guys are seeing on this survey that warrants this material to go out to the to the district in the way that it did? Is there a rise in chlamydia, gonorrhea, STDs, cocaine use, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sexual abuse? And Jeremy's right. How are we really going to help the children that are at high risk factors that we need to protect? Because it doesn't remain anonymous. It's linked to the iPad, so you can technically sue who it is. My thing with high school students is how is it appropriate? And how is the information you're receiving accurate and with integrity? Who's to say the kids aren't making up
Can you wrap up,
answers?
please?
Nope, I have a few more questions on the record.
You're well over your 3 minutes.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to be on the record.
I give up my
Gavel her. You need to gavel her.
All done.
The kid's had a 45-minute survey. She deserves more than 3 minutes.
You had your 3 minutes.
Nope.
We're all done.
So what is the objective of the survey? Who signed off on the approved questions?
Please leave. Can we mute
Are
the mic?
the results being sold and shared with other entities? And what are those entities? Who decided this should be done as an opt-out versus an opt-in? And with that, I have rights as a parent, and you may not want to like them, but you violated my child's rights. And I've already talked to an attorney, and I will continue to go with motions.
Thank you.
And I do want to know, I want a copy of the survey. I want to know why parents were told, why kids were told they couldn't opt out, and why it was told it was mandatory, and what message was across the board that was ignored.
Thank you.
I'm not going away. And not a single tax dollar, any of our tax dollar, whether we pay $4,000, whether Leahy pays $3,000, should ever be paid for this type of abuse to our children. No children. It shouldn't happen. We elect you to do a job to protect our kids and to keep our kids safe. We don't elect you to bring pornography and filth into the school and misleading questions and abuse them. That's not what I elect you for. And I didn't elect you, and you won't be elected again. I can guarantee you that.
Is anyone else interested in speaking in the back?
Rachel Finkel, 7 Dennis Drive. I have 2 kids in the Burlington Public Schools, well, 3, but 2, one in middle school and one in elementary. I would like the same leniency of time, if possible. I know that, because I do know that I'll be going over a little over 3 minutes.
Please try to keep it to 3.
I'm going to try really hard, but if, I'm not going to yell, so, to get my 3 minutes. Thank you. I'm going to skip one part because you've already addressed it with potential policy changes. Even though I support having a much better opt-out system, I do not want it to cloud my support for the survey. I believe in the positive information the survey provides. I didn't find it disgusting. I found it surprising, a little cringy, as my daughter said. But it was a problem with vetting. And so no one could be in charge and be released and be able to say, not me. There were problems, and I agree that there should have been better answers. But simply saying that it wasn't vetted well, it was the opt-in out system did not work well, we shouldn't needlessly say we no longer need the survey. My daughter, who had to take the survey, disagreed with me and about the value of taking it. And I told her, however, cringiness does not harm you. It makes you feel a little uncomfortable. And in fact, defining all of the different types of sex allowed me to have a conversation with her about being pressured when she gets older about having sex. And it won't be okay now that she knows, because I did not tell her explicitly all the different types of sex. I just said sex. But she knows that if someone says, "Ooh, but we're not going to get pregnant this way, it's not real," she can hold strong and say, "No, it is real sex." So thank you for that question on that survey, because it allowed me to have a very honest conversation with my daughter that protects her and her future. My biggest concern is, and my real motivation for being here, is that I feel this has devolved into a religious issue. Even though I'm sure many people in this community, I'm going to get quite trolled on Facebook, I'm sure, and including members of the school committee, wouldn't admit to it. The comments last week scared me, and the comments on Facebook scared me even more. I'm hoping for my children's sake, and that's who I'm speaking for right now, it was just a very loud minority. I want to state publicly that I, nor any other of individuals in charge, have other than themselves, should I expect you, I'm sorry, I didn't. I want to state publicly that I, nor any other individual in charge of someone's identity, is in charge of someone's identity, of anyone but themselves. I teach my children that as a 25-year educator in one of the schools that they think people from Burlington are moving to. I teach my second graders that also. It did not harm my child to learn that a doctor might assign a child the wrong gender at birth due to, oh, excuse me, this is my time.
You're not.
Nope.
Enough. Order.
Due to the infant's lack of language at the time, to be able to say they were wrong and can proudly now say I'm female. Furthermore, clothing is not a choice, and one that I have no right to hold others to my expectations. Personally, I'm not dressed modest enough or appropriate enough for many religions as a married woman, or for my mother to address the school committee. I should have dressed up more. My daughter had a bat mitzvah recently, and I was quite surprised how short dresses can be, but I didn't see those girls as sexual objects. I saw them having fun and dancing. Everyone has a line of comfort, and I expect it to be a conversation and not simply create an absence of ideas. I guess I do have to yell, I apologize. Because they make someone feel uncomfortable. However, when we draw lines of other people's acceptableness, such as clothing choices, I grew up when girls could wear skirts and others could wear and boys could only wear shorts. Or I'm standing for the people who don't agree with you, and there are plenty. And as am I.
Please wrap it up.
And I would have been done much sooner if I was allowed to have my time.
You had your time.
No, I did not. I did not.
Clear the room, clear the room until she can finish.
Okay.
You're in a minority. How about you take control of your meeting, guys?
Gladly. I'm going to call recess. Everyone, please leave except the woman that's speaking.
No, we're not. No, we didn't.
Okay.
We're leaving.
Meeting is
Meeting is in recess.
in recess. not get your full 3 minutes, so please finish.
Everyone has a line of comfort. I expect there to be a civil conversation and not simply create an absence of ideas simply because it makes someone feel uncomfortable. When we draw these lines of acceptableness, such as clothing choice or what's depicted on a poster, in a movie, or even a bookmark for that matter, we must force ourselves to be uncomfortable and ask why. If the choice is to delete a group from people from my children's exposure at school, I want you to be transparent about it. Not just that you're doing it, but why do you feel you need to make such a choice? Because representation matters. Children deserve to see themselves, their families, their friends, their neighbors at school. Representation of all humans, all people, all love, all relationship matters. Unless you're willing to name an image of a mom, dad, and 2 children as representing sexuality, because where did those children come from? Please do not accept that other images of identity, love, clothing, and gender automatically represent sexuality either, and therefore susceptible to parent choice. In our community, we have many different religions, we have many different families, we have people who choose many different types of clothing. When we're in a majority, it's easy to think that's different, weird, or worse, even perverse. I think that mentality is what's weird, wrong, or perverse. My children have lived through many experiences of not being seen specifically due to our religion, and often my concerns fell on deaf ears, and because of the intent. However, the impact is stronger than intent, and impact matters. Please don't let someone's positive intent outweigh a negative impact on the people in our community. The result of that is what marginalized groups have their children unfairly, implicitly indoctrinated into another faith or belief of values that the school implicitly takes from a religion that everyone does not believe in. When a school committee member responds on a Facebook thread of a conversation regarding an already marginalized group, wondering if a community would be bothered with a bookmark of a cross, a symbol of a clear majority, powerful group, I worry if they truly understand the separation of church and state. As a member of the Jewish community, I welcome that bookmark. I've received many Christian presents over the years, particularly at Christmas. But I would also hope to get a bookmark of the Jewish faith, Islam, Baha'i, Buddhism, Hinduism, Druze, Sikhism, and any of the religions of the indigenous people. I welcome that member of the school committee who suggested the Christian bookmark to also name the symbols of the religions that I just named, if he could, because I promise you all of the members of those religions could identify the cross.
Madam Chair, if I may.
In conclusion, please don't make the mistakes that you made about this survey. Give a platform against the LGBTQ community, unaffiliated or minority religions, or the many cultures that originate in countries other than the United States or Europe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may address that, please.
Sure.
That was directed at me, ma'am. That was my brother that made the comment online, not myself. So if you'd like to speak with him, he's right here in the crowd. Thank you.
I would like to then, for the
Set the
record,
record straight.
that's what people do.
Oh, you sure?
Yes.
I don't know what.
One more, Jamie, and you're leaving.
I would like to make it, I made that mistake, and I apologize for, that is why I did not name, but I do apologize that,
We look very similar.
so,
Thank you.
but my comments still stand.
Jason.
Jason Brooks, 28 Beaverbrook Road. Just because it was stated that all I asked was about an option, okay? I'm not going to get vilified here for asking for an option for a different bookmark, and that's all I asked. So, and I'm appalled that my brother got accused of that. Please, anytime you see my name, Jason Brooks, up there, that's not coming from Jeremy. I just want to make that very clear to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is David Hannafin. I spoke last week, and I mentioned I have kids in elementary school, middle school, high school, and I had met on a number of occasions with people in the schools. I met with Dr. Conti and Chen last year. We talked about that, and the point I was making last week is that this wasn't an oversight. We had covered this. We had spoken about it in detail. I'm not quite sure what the woman was getting at, but she kept bringing up religion. And the point that I had made on a number of meetings, and the one that I had made with a few people last year, was that this whole thing, and this woman that was on the TV earlier was talking about the LGBTQ community and the marginalization and everything else. And You know, I had submitted at one point to the middle school that it seems to me like the biggest bully organization within the middle school is that LGBTQIA+ organization. And if you go into the school, there are flags flying everywhere. There are banners. Every door has a sticker on it that says LGBTQ safe zone. So the language that the people on the left typically use is it's triggering. It's, you know, I'm triggered. It's offensive. If I saw a cross, that'd be offensive. People keep bringing that up. Well, the thing that I had mentioned to people last year was that just stop. It doesn't belong in schools. Kids go to school to learn history, reading, writing, arithmetic. Teach them the basics and then send them home. That's our job. So this woman was saying that she welcomes the survey because it allowed her to have a conversation with her child about things that they wouldn't have talked about otherwise. Well, that's your job as a parent, and it's my job as a parent. Dr. Conte, you had complimented my kids last year when we had met and said that they're exemplary in school. I appreciate that. That's because we raise them right, and it's my job to introduce these concepts when it's appropriate, and in a manner that's appropriate, and not in a manner that's offensive and disgusting and repulsive, and everybody can agree on that now that these questions were not appropriate. So my message last year was just stop. And if you don't stop, then we're compelled to start, and that's where we're at. So the reason why people are angry, and the reason why people are here, and I believe someone said there were 12,000 or 15,000 views on Facebook or wherever it was about this meeting that took place last week. People are awake, and they're fed up with it, and it's not a loud minority. It's largely a silent majority. And I mentioned before that I hate going to practice for one of my kids and finding out that, you know, there's something that happened in the school that day, and that's all everyone's talking about. I want to go and watch my son play hockey. I want to watch my daughter run track. I don't want to talk about this stuff. And I want to not have to inoculate my kids against the things that they're hearing in school on a day in and day out basis. So June rolls around every year, and I was told by the middle school we're compelled that we have to celebrate Pride. We have to celebrate Pride Month. No, you don't. You have to teach the kids how to read. You have to teach the kids math. You have to teach the kids accurate history, science, and then send them home. We'll teach them the rest. So I had asked the question, I said, okay, if you're going to celebrate one group's month, and January is Respect Life Month. So January 22nd is, you know, every year, Respect Life Day. That's not on the cultural calendar. I asked why. It's actually, President Ronald Reagan in 1984 issued a presidential proclamation that's entered into the congressional record. That's not, why isn't it on the cultural calendar? But yet there was something like 100+ days dedicated to issues. So that's why people are speaking out about it. It's not because people hate anybody else. And I had said before, Martin Luther King Jr. had it right. Treat everybody based on the content of their character, regardless of the differences. If someone mistreats somebody because they have a different language, or they dress a certain way, or because they're from a different religion, or they're not athletic, or they're overweight, or they're underweight, or whatever it might be, you punish the kid that's mistreating somebody. And you treat it, other than that, we don't need to put everybody in different groups and categories and spotlight this group and that group and then talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion when you're separating everybody into categories in the first place. Just send everybody to school, treat everybody with dignity and respect in academics, and then send them home, let the parents teach values. That's all we're asking for. And if you guys would stop, because you brought this all on, this conversation's all taking place because of these ridiculous policies. If you would stop, we wouldn't have to start. But now everybody's upset, and we're not going to let it go. There's people that have already filed federal complaints. There's people that are going to file lawsuits. It's going to happen, and it was brought on by the people in the school department. So if you'd stop, it would go away. It's a pretty simple fix. Just knock it all off. Thank you.
I had one hand in the back.
So my name's May. I normally don't really like to speak in public, but I feel like this, I have to. And first I want to say thank you to all the parents who spoke last week, and it's not easy. And I have to say that I was disappointed last week. The survey was on the agenda that you guys would discuss, but I didn't see anyone had the survey in hand to be discussed the detail. And then I was shocked, no one was recognized that and how inappropriate the survey, and especially for middle school. And I don't know how many staff members that go through the survey before they approve it. If someone had looked at it, it didn't raise a red flag, then that's the problem. Like, I bet the middle school or teacher or you guys must be seeing that if we think it's appropriate, you guys must have the red flag too, because you might have kids. And then Another question I don't understand, even though some parents say they opt out, but they still fill the survey, and the kids feel uncomfortable, and then they do require to fill the survey, which I don't understand. When I walk into a doctor's office, when they asking me to fill out a survey, if I don't feel uncomfortable with it, I could say no to the survey, right? But why not in school? And why not maybe their kids? I'm not sure about that. And also, like, I don't know what the benefit the survey for, and what do we use the data for?
Thank you, that's been a never-ending question we keep.
And why do we need that survey for a middle school? And they're so innocent. And like as a parent, when we swear in front of the kids, we feel so embarrassed. So I don't know why the heck you guys have the right to destroy their innocence, which is I can't stand. Sorry. And I did, like Jeremy said, I did do my research. I have other friends that live in different town. Their survey is nothing like our survey. So I really don't get it. And I was almost shocked that this survey has been out since 2023. And for that many years, you guys have to figure out, like you are thinking the policy like today, how many years will you guys have to think of the policy of making out and make the next step? I don't know what happened previous year. And I also want to echo what Jeremy said. I really, really upset because I did work for you. I helped you with the sign a couple years ago. And now seeing this, and you said that you did review the survey. I thought I was wrong, but I watched the video 2 times, and you said that you saw the survey, and you allowed this to happen. I just couldn't take it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Farrow. I am a grandmother and an aunt of children in the middle school and the high school and the elementary school, but I feel so bad for this woman. When I saw the questionnaire and my little 6th grade granddaughter got that questionnaire, I cried. The woman who spoke before, she is the minority. I would bet anything that most people would be appalled at their little child getting this survey. She spoke about God knows what. My religion is very important to me. Bringing my children up in that faith is important. I don't think any of this stuff belongs in school. We're in school, the children are in school to learn, to be taught subjects, not to be taught, leave their religion, their sexuality, leave it out of the schools. Somebody has an agenda. There is no question. Somebody has an agenda. And this supposedly came out a couple of years ago, and I remember my daughters being upset about a question, but it didn't get to the point where it was this year. And for the fact that you said the only difference on that questionnaire was the toy part of it, I mean, that says to me that that's the reason that it was hidden, that it was put where so many parents didn't see it. Every child has the right to go to school, be loved, cared for, and treated with respect. We have the right to send our children to school and not have this stuff shoved down their throats. you can't undo the damage. You can't undo the damage that was done. Once they see that, it's done. It's just heartbreaking to me. It's absolutely heartbreaking that these children had to go through that, and now the parents are trying to, they can't undo what's been done. We should be teaching our children about these things, and if that woman wants to talk to her daughter or other people who have her views want to talk about talk to their children about that, you know what the big thing is? Children are now talking about it in schools. So it doesn't, you can't protect your children from it, because the ones who would be opted out if they had been able to be, because my granddaughter was opted out and she was given the survey. If they were opted out, the kids are talking about it still. It doesn't belong in school. It just doesn't belong there. And not only that, they're Googling it. Just think about what they get when they Google the disgusting pornographic stuff that was on that survey. This just should never be happening. Thank you.
One more hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mike Farrow. I've been a resident and taxpayer in Burlington for over 40 years. My wife, Rosemary, and I have had 8 children go through the Burlington school system. Currently have a granddaughter in high school and a granddaughter in the middle school and 2 young boys in elementary school. I'm not going to speak on the subject of what was in the survey. Obviously, it was disgusting. I was glad to see most of the board recognize that last week. I'd like to focus on 2 issues. The first of which, there wasn't a lot of clarity on who actually read the survey before it was distributed. Dr. Conti, did you read it in full?
Again, this is not a dialogue, sir.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Did the members of the board read it in full? Okay. Can I ask Dr. Conti, were the principals and the guidance counselors instructed to read the survey before it was distributed? You don't want to answer that question either.
We can put all of these questions in the FAQ that Dr. Conti's
Okay.
putting together.
We still don't have.
Were the teachers given the opportunity to read the survey? No response again. Okay.
Through the chair.
Sure.
I just want to clarify, just having been chair before, when we're in a meeting like this and you have questions, when it's the public speaking, you can ask your questions, but we don't respond until the next meeting. So we'll address your questions in the next meeting.
That's not the format.
But that is the format.
That is not the format for a public meeting.
Dr. Conti committed to the answers by May, okay? We have
let's
budget
move
happening
on.
right now, a budget hearing that we are not getting to. So please wrap up your comment.
Okay,
This is the final comment.
So those are my questions, which hopefully will be addressed in the process. I think I know what the answers are, and I think the answers show a complete disrespect for not only the parents of this community, but the students. Now, Dr. Conti, you may recall when the last incident occurred at the middle school a number of years ago, we had a conversation about what occurred. And I think the end result, and during the conversation, I'll give you credit, you were professional and polite. You apologized. The same type of apologies I heard at the last school committee meeting. And what I'm suggesting to the community is that Dr. Conti has a history of just listening, apologizing, and hoping problems go away. So I'd like publicly to go on record and suggest Mr. Conti should seriously consider resigning. If he does not consider resigning, I suggest the committee should consider doing what I think happened in the last situation with the middle school, where there was an executive meeting, I'm assuming, with town council, and somebody was dismissed. If that does not occur, I strongly recommend to the community and to all of the parents that you organize and you mobilize to have an effect. Now, there are a number of ways of doing that. One is to set up a committee, and I'd be more than happy to help out in any way I can, including resources, to make sure this ends up where it should end up, which is the dismissal of Dr. Conti.
Thank you.
The most valuable asset in this community is not our brand-new fire station, it's not our renovated or new schools, it's not our town common. Our most precious resource is our children. And there's been a gross ineptitude in protecting our children. And I hope my daughter Christine doesn't mind, who's here with her husband. My granddaughter Olivia, who had told she had to take the survey, even though she opted out, at 3 years old was diagnosed with leukemia. She went through hell, as did her parents and her siblings. And with the grace of God, she lived through it. There is no justification why she had to be traumatized in the middle school with this survey. It's inexcusable. Dr. Conti, some of us have professions where you get a takeover. You're a mechanic and you do a brake job wrong, you can fix it. If you're a plumber, you can resolder. If you traumatize children, you don't get a takeover. As my wife said, who knows what damage has been done to these children? So in closing, I think you should resign. If you choose not to resign, I think the board should take action. If the board doesn't take action, I think the community should mobilize, including outside resources. I think Mr. Hannaford referred to some legal action that has been taken. I suggest that Christine Steiner contact Jesse Watkins at Fox News again. His last comment on the last interview was, please keep me in tune what's going on with the town of Burlington. There is no excuse. It's
Mr.
time for you to
Farrell,
leave.
I would like to address what you just said.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, while it is generally the case that we take questions and we don't answer them at that same meeting, unless it's something extremely simple, which in this case it is. So I'm going to answer your question.
Thank you.
No member of this board that I'm aware of, and Dr. Conti and Dr. Chen, none of us saw the questions. Don't interrupt me, please. There were some things that went wrong, and we know it. But as you well know, when we have personnel issues, we do not discuss them in public meetings. It's against the law.
I understand
we
it was
can't
a
do that.
suggestion, Mrs. Monaco.
Fine, you can suggest all you want, but your suggestion is out of line. Dr. Conti is not the person who was responsible for reading this and letting it go. Behind the scenes, there are many things going on, figuring out exactly what happened and why it happened. I think you're aware that every member of this board, and Dr. Conti, and Dr. Chen, we all agree with you. It never should have happened. Yes, it was disgusting. My grandchildren took it too. But for you to come up here and start, you want to make a big thing about we should all go after Dr. Conti.
The big
It's
thing was
not
made by
fair.
the survey, Mrs. Monaco. The
I
big thing
agree
was
with you.
created by the administration, whether you want to hear it or not.
You're right. You're right. But don't sit there and say that you know the answer, that we read it and he read it. We didn't. So let us do our job
Okay, so you
and
just
find
answered
out what happened.
So just answer the question. You supported my position that shows complete disregard for the children
It's
of this
not
community.
disregard. Mistakes are made in life. I'm sure you've made a few yourself.
Whether it's stupidity or whether it's a mistake.
Let us figure it
The
out.
end result, the damage to the children has been done.
You're right.
Damage has been
I
done.
agree with you.
So now it's time to move on to the
I
next
agree
step.
with you.
Which is
But
to
now,
make changes.
please, let's call it a day.
Thank you
okay?
for answering the question. Thank you for your time.
Public comment is closed.
I'd like to speak, please.
It's closed.
No, it's not closed.
It's
not
closed.
I have my say here.
It's closed.
It's closed.
It's over.
It's closed. We have new business.
You also said that you would give us answers this week, so where we
My hand has been
The
up.
public comment is closed for today.
And I have
It's
every
all
right
done.
to speak.
You do not. Public comment is closed.
It's not closed.
It's closed.
You're
This is
discriminating.
All right, do we have to do this again? Do we
Yeah,
have to have?
we have officers here ready
You can
to
time me,
close the
and I
meeting.
have my 3 minutes, and I have every right to speak.
I have every right to close the public comment. It's 8:15. We've done over an hour of public comment, okay? We can reopen it next meeting.
Well, then we'll come back next week.
Feel free.
You said last week we'd get answers this week, so where are the answers from last week?
It takes time to research.
Yep, Dr. Conti is committed to the answers by May 1st, correct?
No.
You said last week that we're gonna get them this week.
Well, we don't have them.
And I do have, I promise I'll be under 3 minutes, but I do
We are going to
have a
recess
few things
again
that
if
I'd
there
like to
cannot be
say.
order in this room. Public comment is
We want
closed.
Hill to speak.
You may email, you may contact us.
We've done that.
To say, she deserves 3 minutes, she's a taxpayer.
Public comment has been closed. We're gonna move on to subcommittee
Emails
reports.
are not getting answered, so we'd like some answers.
Does anyone have a subcommittee report?
Let Hill to speak. Let Hill to speak.
Megan, are you really gonna
I
let
mean-
them not let me speak?
I am not the chair of this committee.
I understand that you're not, but I understand.
It is not
that
my decision
it's
on how
not.
the agenda moves forward.
It's not, but I know that you have some honor.
Melissa, she deserves to be able
It
to
is
speak.
not my
What you're
decision,
doing is wrong.
You
unfortunately.
have honor and integrity. Are you really gonna let them
Please to
not
clear
let
the
me
room.
speak?
It is not my decision. I am not the chair of this committee. I cannot make that choice. Robert's rules, I cannot make that choice.
I just waited for everybody to finish speaking so I could speak. All I want is I'm asking for 2 minutes. Everybody else went over their time, and I waited patiently.
Hilda will listen, you should just stand up and speak.
So she can try to get me arrested?
Well, I guess Tuesday night with the school committee is gonna be our new thing. I should bring pizza next week. It's getting entertaining.
Does anyone have a subcommittee report? No.
We're really not gonna let Hilda speak.
Jeremy might have one.
Do we have a rec?
Give this one. Before we move on, I'm going to refrain from, I was trying to refrain from saying this, but we did promise the parents answers. We owe them something. This is not right to. I don't know what answers we have. I don't know that we can provide them, but we did provide answers. So last week in this meeting, I said I would like to see immediacy of action. And Ms. Monaco asked questions, said I'd like to have these answered next meeting. I spoke with Dr. Conti before this meeting and said, please have some answers ready for these parents because they've asked for it and we've promised it. I do not want to make promises and not deliver on them. If this was any other event, I would ask for the same thing. If we make promises, we have to deliver. This is where we come into problems, and this is why we have concerned parents, because we say things and then we do not follow up. We have to continue to have a bias for action when things are brought before us. I'm ready to move on to my statement.
And I'd like to make a comment on top of that. I agree with him. We do have answers. I actually put together a list of questions that I feel that we need to answer as a committee. But as I mentioned earlier today, it takes time. I know we want immediate answers and immediate responses, but, in my business, we'll have people come in and they are investigating, what's going on in our corporation, right? So when they find what you call a violation or, something of that sort, that you haven't followed the rules or they feel that maybe you weren't, you have what's called a SCAR report or a CAR report. And you have time to respond to that when you're audited, okay? So let's say it's an audit. You get the time to put it together. You're not asked to respond right there on the spot. You're not asked to do it within a week. You get the time you need to dig deep into what occurred. Because the bottom line is, you want to know who, what, when, where, and why, so it doesn't happen again. And like I said, I understand the need for wanting answers now and wanting it, everything to be presented to you, right now and get that resolved. But please give us the time to dig into this Again, I understand there's some past history, but I think, we need to provide you information on why the surveys are given to begin with. Do some history and kind of go through it and make everyone understand the process so that, again, we can get back to it and say, this is, what occurred, this is what we're going to do to fix it, and go through it step by step. But it's not something that happens instantaneously. I understand it's frustrating. I understand you want answers now, but we need the time to really dig into it so we can give you, like I said, answers that are thoughtful and thought through and thorough. And if you want, a thorough investigation, you have to give us the time to do it. That's all I'm asking.
I personally have waited 2 years because I was one of the parents 2 years ago when this survey went out.
Okay.
Who said these questions were not acceptable and this wasn't okay and our kids shouldn't be answering these questions. So here I am, 2 years later. Where are my answers?
How much
All
time
right,
do you need?
we're all done.
Can Hilda speak?
No,
Hilda speak?
no, we are moving on.
Why we
Subcommittee, Jeremy has a subcommittee report.
It doesn't take till May to answer who was on the committee that read this survey. It doesn't take till May to give us.
Just tell them to stop.
I really appreciate what you just said, and I agree with you.
But Hilda should have the right to
Okay,
speak.
we are all done. We recess
I would
again.
just like my 2 minutes to speak on what I have to say. That's all I
3
really need
minutes,
to
Melissa.
Recess.
Wouldn't you guys know the purpose of the survey if you sent out the survey?
This is not over.
Nobody's trying to silence you.
Well, she apparently is.
We have 30 minutes for public participation. We went over an hour and a half.
That's fine. You can just give me two minutes of your time is all I'm asking.
If you guys answered the question, we'd be
You
done.
gave the other woman 7, 8 minutes. You can't give me 2? And you're wasting her time taking her recess now instead of hearing me out.
Budget to terminate this survey, $7,000. Where does the data go, Ms. Chen? You were brought in to fix
How
our
does this
curriculum.
make them look now? Really?
It's actually ridiculous. What is the purpose of this report? Well, the fact that 2 people took the time to do
their research. You've got 8, and they can't do the research?
Are you guys
can't
all
divide it
leaving?
up? They're not gonna answer. They're not gonna answer.
I think we're just gonna have to come back to the next
Can you guys just wait until they come back from their recess? Please don't go. Let's see what happens. Let's see if they come back from their recess and they decide to let me. Do you want me to talk to them in the hallway? Yeah, please. Let's see. Did the other woman leave, the crazy one?
Yeah, she left a long time ago.
Oh my God. That's the one I'm going to.
Yep, they're not gonna get the answers. And the thing is, are they gonna stop what's currently going on before it is done?
This is insane. I can't believe you really shut me down like that. Can you see how like she's Can you please send me along? Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw the post.
We love you. Thank you, we love you.
I said school is for kids to learn.
That's what we're saying, but we're
You-
being labeled as
You
haters.
are labeling kids like they're so little. They're image like they're
let them be
naive. So if
kids.
you tell them 1 + 1 is 1, then they will believe it. It's math is math, science is science. You don't make it.
back next Tuesday.
No, I think I have to get the DEA stuff done.
All right. We have essential business that has to be conducted this evening. So I'm going to take the budget session out of order, starting with the BECC and special ed. Great.
Well, Ms. Luzardo, am I not getting my 3 minutes?
Public comment is closed. Thank you.
So we'll be back next week.
Feel free.
And every weekend after that.
Go ahead.
Okay. And we'll be still waiting for those answers.
Go ahead, Ms. Ciccolini.
So I would like to first say thank you to the school committee for your support. I'd also like to thank the town because I know that dealing with operating budgets of special education is usually very difficult because my budget is usually what's called a moving target. We could ebb and flow depending on the year, the day, the month. So I appreciate that the town and the school committee support special education for all the students here in Burlington. For me and my operating budget, I have asked for a 12% increase, and
Even with the wrong date, should I write the correct date in?
Sure.
and for me, I am really seeing an increase more for our legal fees as a precaution. One, because our attorney has raised his fees, but also you never know. So I'd like to make sure that there is enough cushion in there just in case we need this. And then also for contracted services, that ebbs and flows too, depending on kids' needs when they're moving into, especially into our programs. So that was really the increases that I had in my operating budget. Everything else was pretty much 0%.
Bob, can you close the doors? I'm having trouble hearing because of the noise out in the hallway. Sorry.
Sorry. In regards to the accommodated account, which is a gift, again, because of the people of Burlington who are supportive of all students here, we are looking at a 7% increase. We really kind of have pretty much the same for our out-of-district tuitions, but what I am requesting, because our students who are moving from our middle school specialized programs are moving up into the high school, and I am looking to expand our high school program, so I'm requesting an additional special education teacher at the high school for our program, and also instructional assistant to help support those students as well. So that's where the increase is really coming from. Most of this stuff is standard increase in terms of tuition costs have gone up or raises or et cetera. So that is what I am looking for in my accommodated account. And then Deb with the BECC.
Hi, everyone. So as Ms. Ciccolini said, I do want to thank you for your generosity with the accommodated account. We are also a moving target. We never know what we're getting year to year with the early intervention projections. We do, try to keep everything level funded, and this year we are level funded. I'm not asking for any additional positions, so everything within my budget. I did do a little moving around in terms of different accounts, but we're able to level fund without asking for anything else. And again, with our projections for next year, we don't anticipate any additional needs for next year, but thank you for having us in this account to let us grow. Any questions?
You're kidding, right?
For us. For us.
Again, Deb, there's lots of conversations about the BECC that are being connected to the new high school project. And so how would you categorize your sort of space right now? I guess I would say understanding it's not Taj Mahal, but it's. I think when you and I have talked, it's really high school space that we're adapting to the preschool, but
It
it
is.
really wasn't built out as preschool space in terms of classroom bathrooms and things like that. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but again, a new space, a newly designed space would also be an enhancement to the program?
It would, and again, we make do with what we have. Our teachers are very resilient. We've kind of made space where space didn't exist so that we can make more room for storage, for offices, for classrooms, for student space. We did do the bathrooms a couple of years ago for the kids, but they're not in the classroom. And having bathrooms in the classroom, it sounds like a small ask, but for little kids, it just cuts down on the amount of time they're transitioning from the classroom to the bathroom, putting more time on learning. And just the configurations of some of the rooms. Right now, we have, I don't want to call them half walls, but there's a break in between up top, so the sound from one room can go into the other room. And if you've been around preschoolers during shake breaks and other things like that, or even just singing, it does get loud. So we do, again, want to maximize the learning environment. So those are just two issues. And then we are running out of storage. Again, lots of storage goes into preschool with all the equipment we have and the supplies. So a new space would be more than welcome.
And so, again, through the chair, Mrs. Bond, I know there's lots of conversation, or people think there's sort of extra space, even in some of the designs we're having. What I'll say is we'll quickly utilize that extra space for storage and for other programmatic needs, replicating sort of the space that we have now. In new space, I think would be insufficient to really making sure the program continues to grow, and it doesn't become a limiting factor with the quality of the program.
So I do have a favor to ask of you all. Since it's called non-educational space.
Which we take exception to.
Yes, but you know where I'm coming from, right?
I do.
So we're trying to, and I'm going to speak with my building committee chair hat on for the high school, talk to the community about how what you do, that the students do, like even though it's not a class per se, what is it and how do they participate or see what's going on with you all that would be advantageous, for them to see for future? Is there something that they come in and volunteer? Do they do anything? I'm just trying to find out if there's something that,
Yeah, so they are classrooms. We do run classrooms. We have 7 right now. It differs on needs of students. We have morning sessions. We have 7 morning sessions and 3 afternoon sessions. They are run by certified teachers. They are run as a classroom. We are working on literacy. We're working on math. We're working on social skills. We're working on, for lack of a better word, readiness skills. Like, how do you become a member of the community? You hang up your backpack. You're part of a community. You come in. You hopefully follow one-step directions.
Well, I was going to say, I'm looking at like the high school students, what they observe that you all do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's not what you're doing with the kids that are in your. It's
so
like I talk about BCAT, for example, and how the students get an opportunity to, do the news or do the weather or whatever, and they can put that on the resume when they go off to college. It's something like what is it that the high school students might be able to participate in or see or observe that. With you all.
Yeah, so we actually do work with the high school. Mr. Sullivan welcomes us into the space. We have our kids who are going to pre-K next year who are in our 4-hour program. They're starting to do snack in the cafeteria. We've had Mrs. Holgrim's class come down and do reading with us because of her choir class. They're working on prosody. They're working on reading to kids, and that's really, it's been nice to see some of our former students come down and read in some of their teachers' classrooms. We have one right now. We have a student intern doing the senior internship. We've had that in the past. And actually, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. One of the gym teachers invited us down, and we're having the class go down every week. And the students in those classes are actually teaching the kids and coming up with activities. So there's a lot of back and forth.
Can you send me an email on some of that?
I sure would.
I'm trying to put something together because like I said, I just want to make sure that we get what we need for the future and get buy-in from the town, as you know, so.
And I'm happy to provide that, any other information. I'm happy to come to any meeting and answer those questions. Again, I think sometimes we're just in that little nook and people don't realize we're there or what we do and, the importance of that early childhood education. So I'm happy to put that together for you, and if there are more questions, I'm happy to do that.
And like I said, I didn't mean to take over, but they just, while you were here.
Yeah, not a problem at all.
Through the chair, Melissa, I just wanted to thank you both for your commitment to our youngest learners and our special education students. And, I think the ECC program is fantastic. And, it's early intervention that makes a huge difference in students' lives. And the quality of that program is incredibly important to all of our students and our even through their elementary, middle, and high school. It really permeates their entire education in Burlington, and making sure that our classrooms are set up correctly for our teachers and our students is incredibly important. And I'm hoping that the space that we have dedicated in the high school more than fits the needs of the students, and that we are able to expand the program. I know there's been a wait list because it is so popular and it is fantastic. People want to be there, and I think we should really make sure that that space is prioritized, even though it's non-academic in our plans. It's very much academic.
Right, very much academic.
Yeah, you just mentioning the cafeteria tables brought me back to the pictures you sent of my kids learning how to eat in a cafeteria. So thank you for popping that fond memory in my mind. Thank you both. Thank you, Christina, too.
So this is a really crazy night. But I just wanted to tell both of you that I think you do a great job.
Thank you.
And that I have special memories of both of you. Christina, you have been extremely kind on certain occasions when it was very much appreciated. And you, my friend, have done such a great job with the little ones.
Thank you.
And one of my favorite memories is one day picking up little Frank. And he was looking at me all bundled up, and I'm thinking, is that him? And I walked up, and he just jumped into my arms, and it was just awesome. And seeing the two of you brought back a lot of sweet memories, so I wanted you to know it.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Yes.
Real quick, if I could. Thank you again for both what you do. You both run amazing programs, and sometimes it's often not felt right, but the impact you make seems small today, but it grows exponentially with children as they achieve success, and I can personally attribute to the success my children have seen because of the programs you run, and I appreciate what you do every day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just better than sunshine.
Go out the front door.
The back door.
Go over there, that way.
All right. Do we want to open the budget hearing? Or we can go back to the top.
Madam Chair, I just have two things that are sort of pressing that are, I think, connected to the budget and the budget hearing would be the side letter that's been adopted by the BEA. Chrissy Shepard is here. I'm assuming you're here representing the BEA as Vice President, and so I want to thank them for taking the vote. The language is in your packet. I think some of the conversations that we had with the committee in terms of having it be a one-year experience for us was something that was acceptable, and then we made some accommodations while maintaining 8 early release days. We made some accommodations for November, given that the teachers felt like November was critical. So
what's the accommodation?
The accommodation is we moved the early release in October to November, so we don't have one in October because they felt that was a more critical time. So still the same total number, but they felt the timing was better given the units of study, and Dr. Chen said she can work with that schedule. So again, overall number is still 8. Again, you have the language. I'm hoping that the school committee will support the the one-year agreement. And again, this then would, we have the warrant that is also connected to this for the comprehensive literacy materials from grades K to 5. And this would be, I think, a next critical step in that. And then we have the calendar in here that's also associated with it. We need to start communicating to families as early and very frequently as possible if this is something the school committee would support. And so, again, I don't think I'm saying this particularly well, but I'd like to ask the school committee to support this this side letter for, again, as written, which is a 1 year, which would give the teachers and Dr. Chen the time that they need to implement a comprehensive literacy program, and give the committee and the teachers an opportunity to study the schedule and the calendar to determine whether it's something you want to move forward with after next year.
Question?
Yeah.
What happens if our warrant article for this program doesn't pass?
Well, we'd still, what we talked about with the budget is we need about roughly $130,000 worth of consumables for our current literacy program. And we have a new position request, and so my suggestion would be, if it doesn't pass, that we would,
I just mean with regard to the early release, because they're specifically for this.
right, well, we would just continue with the professional development. We would still need to develop literacy skills and hopefully then
I need
figure out
even more time to.
how to get the program approved, maybe in pieces. I think we will use the time. It will be focused on literacy. But again, when we talk about the budget, we would also have to make a flip in the budget if it wasn't approved.
Okay.
Question?
So I move we
question?
approve.
No, that was a good question. Okay.
I move we approve the side letter that has been, give me the words, will you?
Side letter and language between the Burlington School Committee and the Burlington Education Association as submitted in your packet.
That, thank you. I move that.
I'll second it.
Martha has her hand up on the phone. Oh. Martha, you can unmute now.
Now? How's that?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to speak in favor of this side letter. It's an issue that's been on the negotiating table for many years. I think that the teachers have been very thoughtful about their needs and about the district's needs. I think the district has been very clear about why this is important. And I think both sides have really come to a middle, and we can move forward. I think it will be really beneficial for the teachers, for the students, and for the district. And I really hope that this will pass, and I'm pleased that the teachers also passed it.
All right, any more comments here? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Aye, so 5-0.
Thank you very much. And then the calendar that was also in your packet that you've seen before has the 8 early release days that are marked. They're 90-minute early release. We're going to have to incorporate that into the transportation sort of survey and communication, and we'd like to start getting this out to, if you approve the calendar as presented, we'd like to start communicating this to families and to staff as soon as possible. If they have childcare issues, Ms. Novacek, you also said we need to confirm that the after-school program will be running early, and that's the intention, but I'm sure there'll be families that have questions about the extended time. So I want to make sure we have enough time to answer all those questions before the end of the year picks up.
Thank you.
Just one point, though. When we spoke about that, I had also asked about the after-school program ability to flex that day and accept more students. Is there a plan? Can they do it? How many can they do?
so we have an idea of that, so that could be a sign-up or something to accommodate some more families.
Again, through the chair, Mr. Brooks, we've talked to Ms. Haverty about doing that. I think from her perspective, it depends on the amount of staff that she can have, so that's why getting the dates is really important, and we're going to try to get people locked in as soon as possible, and then if there's a possibility to expand for those dates, she's certainly willing to do that. She's willing to serve as many families as she has staff to manage and space to manage. So I don't have a definitive answer for you yet because I want to make sure the dates are done and then we can start being much more specific.
Anyone want to move to approve the calendar?
So moved.
For what? She moved
The
to approve the
calendar,
calendar.
where the
Oh,
half-days are.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Can I see the
5-0.
October date?
Opposed? No.
There's none in October.
Correct.
So where is it in November?
The 19th. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and we're okay. So, Madam Chair, now I think we can move on to the budget hearing. We can push the policy, unless you really want to do the second reading of the policy very quickly, unless there are questions.
I'm happy to do that, just so we have it.
Yeah, let's just vote it.
Okay, so last
to
time
know
you
what
looked at the
was
first
changed.
year, again, nothing's really changed. We've had to go back to
Title IX
the
language.
former language of Title IX because the Biden administration made changes that we had to adopt, and now those changes have been rescinded, so we're
So
just
what's the
going back to-
effect of it?
The effect of it is that
We can't have churned
it's one incident versus a preponderance.
Preponderance incidents, and also the protected class has been removed. It's no longer, there's no longer like the pregnancy clause in there.
Okay.
It's the former definition of what constitutes as sexual harassment under the old Title IX federal regulations of 2020.
I move we approve the, where is it?
The middle.
Policy AC, non-discrimination and harassment.
Second.
This is a second reading. You've already had a first reading, so thank you.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Opposed? I vote aye, 5-0. Jumping around, anyone else have anything, any facilities, transportation, or building committee updates that Bob has an update?
I do.
Okay.
I think this was something that Mr. Brooks wanted to start on subcommittee reports, so I'm going to share my screen. So while the slideshow isn't fancy, it's really to give this committee an update as to where we sit right now with middle school field renovation.
So I'm going to try to cover this real quick. Basically, the reason I want to ensure the committee's back briefed on this is it does have schedule impacts. Conservation Commission and our engineer have been working together. It's a good collaboration. There is a few challenges with a broken pipe that there's some wetlands associated with it, and we're either having to replicate that wetlands in a different area or find a way to adjust the way the field sits to avoid that area. Our next meeting is with Conservation on the 10th. We hope to find some resolution there, but if we don't, it'll continue to affect the schedule, which will affect when we go out to bid, which will affect when we start work, which will affect when it becomes finished, right? So we've been saying, to this point, we can meet schedule for school opening. That is still a possibility. Just realize as this schedule slips right, as we figure out this challenge, again, it's not something that's going to shut the project down. It's not something that's going to make the project not doable. Everything is still on the table. We're not going to lose any of the features we need, want, or desire. And we just need time to work through the conservation, the statutory, regulatory challenges we have right now, and then get the notice of intent cleared through conservation, and then we can begin moving into the bid phase. So again, it's really just an administrative challenge, us coming to agreement on what that is, and then moving forward with, work. And then I'm going to turn it over to Bob because he has a little bit more detail on the northeast corner of that field as it sits.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the committee aware of some important dates. So notice of intent was filed February 24th with the Conservation Department. We had a site visit with Conservation and town engineer, with our engineers as well from Desra, on site March 31st at the middle school. Tomorrow is April 9th, so tomorrow the wetland scientist from Desra Engineering Company is meeting on site with the Conservation Department. And then the next slide I will discuss why. And as Mr. Brooks mentioned, April 10th is our next conservation meeting. So this picture is the overall site plan. I'm just going to zoom into this top corner right here. Yes, it's a little bit fuzzy, but there's an area right here that's in question. Our wetlands engineers have flagged it back here, but what's in question is this area right here, and we need a determination from conservation if they agree with our flagging or if they believe the flagging is in a different area. If the flagging is believed to be in a different area, that puts this corner right here of the project and this section of walkway in jeopardy. As Mr. Brooks mentioned, one alternative would be to slide the field down and over about 12 feet, right? And that would get us out of this area, but then we would have to shape the walkway different. Instead of coming down here, maybe the walkway may have to come this way a little bit and then that way. This is our accessible walkway from the back of the parking lot. As we mentioned, these two rows right here in the nature seating are accessible from the walkway, but lower down is another accessible ramp from the walkway right here. So until we get that final determination, hopefully tomorrow, if not at our meeting on Thursday night with Conservation, this area remains in question, and we won't be able to proceed until we agree and Conservation agrees with that determination.
And again, I want to thank Conservation too. It's been a very iterative process. They've been very forthcoming with information. They've worked with Nezra. We've gone, back and forth a bunch of times. And again, it's a very collaborative process. But again, it's just a tough nut to crack, and we're figuring it out.
Yeah. And if I could just add as well too. So yes, we have been meeting with Conservation multiple times. I think this is our 4th meeting coming up. Does not mean that they have approved this project. There definitely are some things that are in question. So we've had to do some corrective actions to make that viable option, and the committee will have to vote on that. So we are assuming that the committee is amenable to working with us, and that our changes to the plan are in coordination or alliance with what the other wants are for the project. So we're feeling confident with that.
But again, the biggest impact would be schedule if this continues to slide, right? So we may not open with school. It would be maybe slightly into the school year or something like that. Again, we don't see it being something that's going to terminate the project or anything like that.
Question. How come that wasn't, how come the committee wasn't aware of that before the plan was done?
So when we originally flagged the wetland areas, the top and the blue were identified as replication areas. And then the actual existing wetland moved further to the east, I guess, of where it's depicted right now.
Was Conservation involved at the beginning?
We did reach out to them early on, and that's when we started the discussion, and it wasn't discovered until we'd walked the site and the broken pipe was found.
So if you have to move it in order to make it work, what do we give up?
Well, again, we can't promise that yet because the wetlands determination line has to be decided upon with the wetland scientist and Conservation. So again, if we believe it's this line right here, then maybe nothing, right? If it's found out to be this line on the inside, then what happens is we may, like I said, have to push this about 12 feet, which means that this corner right here comes down about 8 feet, and this corner right here comes over about 8 feet. That means this line comes over, right? So
does the field still fit?
Correct, it does. right? But then what happens is like anything, you know, so if you look at this and you say, all right, well, we moved it 12 feet and we have to shift this, you know, you want to try to minimize any janky looking walkways, right? You know, try to go around it, right? So we'll have to make some elevation changes, you know, as we get closer away from this corner right here. That will free up some space, but we'll end up moving this line closer down here. This is a riverfront area, so we definitely need to be careful of that. So there's some mitigation plans in here with some swales and some filtering and so forth. Any of the water that drains through the turf needs to outlet somewhere. So again, that's part of our mitigation plan to make sure that we're working with conservation, just to find any challenge with that. So. Again, it's not that we didn't know that there was an area there at the beginning of it. This area right here, my lack of conservation knowledge, so excuse me, is this area is not determined to be a wetland. What's in question right now is that it has wetland properties. So that's where the flagging comes into play and determination needs to be made. Some of these areas back here are actually on the DEP maps, state maps, as known wetlands. But again, since those aren't or have not been updated recently, again, this area just has some properties, so we need to determine where that line is in conjunction with conservation.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, it's much like the ANRAD for the field on the practice field. We put up flags, they're checking them, we're going back, whether we agree on it, and it's just that process.
It's not a wetland. Let us know how it goes. Okay, just twitching. Okay.
All right, that was subcommittee reports. Any other subcommittee reports?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so as far as the BHS Building Committee, we moved our next meeting to Thursday, the 17th at 6:30.
Okay.
And that's because we wanted to, we completed the ANRAD report, and we're going in front of Conservation this week on the 10th.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, they are. We can show up if we want to, but probably a good idea if we do, but you know, we're going to be presenting, so our meeting's delayed till the 17th.
Okay. Okay. Do we have Ways and Means on the phone? No. You guys just met with Ways and Means,
Yeah,
right?
I can give a quick.
Campbell.
Campbell is on, but I don't know.
Oh, yes, okay. We'll talk for him then.
Yeah, it went fine.
Okay.
I don't know if he wants to, doesn't have a hand raised, but I will request.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hey. So we met on, Monday to talk about the superintendent's budget and waiting to hear from the school committee budget to be voted. We have some scheduled tentative meetings coming up that we're going to be finalizing. Next Wednesday, we'll vote on at 6:30 on hopefully the school committee budget, and then that will be presented to Ways and Means. That's the 16th at 7, both the school committee budget and the special education accommodated budget. And then on Monday, the 28th, we're going to go over the warrant articles at 4 o'clock, and then those will be presented to Ways and Means on the 30th at 7 o'clock.
Sounds good. Other comments? All right. Other announcements?
Oh,
sure.
May I make an announcement?
Yep.
I just wanted you guys to know, this is very exciting. We have our largest group of student athletes for unified basketball. That's just really exciting. April 15th, there's a home game from 4 to 5. It's at the BHS Wooden Gym. On April 28th, mark your calendars, 4 to 5, unified basketball game, because I think they only have 3. And then on May 12th, from 4 to 5, a unified basketball game.
Thank you. You sent us the schedule as well.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But it's just exciting to see our kids interact with each other and play. It's very exciting times.
Love it.
Your Science Pathways program starts like this week also, in case you don't need to know.
Yeah.
When it's time, I have an update for the committee on one of these agenda items.
I'm on, just about to jump down to Fox Hill. Or did I hit you?
Nope, you can go ahead.
Okay. We just had a Fox Hill Building Committee meeting just prior to this. We have moved on to the construction phase of the project. We presented to MSBA today. We are still completely on track. Don't think I have too much more to update there. The bids will go out. We're trying to time it in between the holidays of this year, so right after Thanksgiving, so that we can get bids back before before the end of the year, which means shovels will go in the ground probably just under a year from today. And you already made the BHS update, so facilities.
Thank you. So I met with Capital Budget last week, April 2nd, and they have not supplied me with any votes yet, but generally positive. One of the comments that came from that conversation is the school department, through myself, we are requesting a tree maintenance budget for $50,000. Recreation department is requesting a trees, I just want to make sure I say it correctly, trees, sidewalk, and fences warrant article for $50,000. So the chair of capital budget has asked myself and recreation if we would consider the school department removing or eliminating our request and the recreation department increasing their request to cover the $50,000, which would make one single request for $100,000. No details have been discussed yet as to how that the funding would work. Would the school department get the whole $50,000? They just felt that the intent of me asking for that warrant article was to get the trees either maintained or removed, and with recreation maintaining and removing trees up to a certain limit, then going outside. They just thought the funding mechanism sat better in the recreation department than here at the schools. I'm in the middle on that opinion, but again, I would like the committee to at least hear that, and if you choose to make any decisions, that's great news or bad news, however you choose to agree with it.
So, whose idea was it to do that?
I don't know specifically because it came on email through the chair, Mark Woods. But he said that the committee had made a recommendation through email after hearing my presentation of the request to be combined. There was an email communication to myself and Brendan to see if we would be interested, and I said that I would need to run this by school committee since this request is on your behalf. So,
personally, I think that that we should have control over it, because I don't think that we can always count on rec to do the things that we happen to need as a school department. I mean, they're so busy and they have so many things to take care of. My understanding of this was that it was specifically for work that needs to be done at schools, and therefore it's our problem. But that's just my opinion.
If I could just comment on that. So, again, I think the problem necessarily doesn't lie with the school. The funding mechanism lies with the lack of budgets, is I believe what the intent of the question was, meaning that collaboratively working with Brendan from the recreation department, that we both agree that tree maintenance, grass cutting, et cetera, will fall within the recreation department. It's what happens when it gets outside of their purview, or if they can't, if they're not capable of taking down that large tree, then what happens is now it becomes a monetary conversation. Who can afford it, right?
Right.
Certain times of the year, their budget's low, and then they come looking at us saying, hey, can you afford to pay for it? So that's the whole side of the conversation. As far as if the money sat over there, sure, we could make the request. If it sat over here, then I think we still have the same conversation that I would make the phone call to recreation first, and then it may be determined at some point that it can't be. Now, I would be looking for a tree vendor to come coordinate the removal or, repair of the tree. So.
So I guess that's what I was trying to say. To me, it makes sense to do it because, again, if they're responsible for it up to what they can handle, right? They can only cut a certain size tree down or whatever the restrictions are. And if they can't accommodate that because the tree's a certain size or whatever, I think to me it would make sense to allow them to be the ones who put it out to bid and do whatever is necessary to remove a tree for safety purposes. I don't think they're not going to do that. I understand wanting to keep control of things, but to me it was their responsibility to begin with, and why not allow them to continue that responsibility if it's outside of their ability to perform what needs to be done. That's just my opinion.
I kind of echo your sentiment, Ms. Bond. Like, really, the conversations I have with Brendan it's an equipment limitation, so when it becomes something that is too large from the handle or they can't cut it down, it becomes that contractual conversation Mr. Cunha really hit on where, okay, so who's going to pay for this because it's on what property? And, again, they're going to wind up doing the work anyway, or at least overseeing the work.
And through the chair, I agree with Mrs. Monaco. I think that, rec is super busy, and it's not that they're not going to help us when we're asking them for help. We should be able to have the funds set aside in a funding account, right, that you were intending to set up, Ms. Bob, to have funds available on a rolling basis if we have any issues with trees. We can, of course, go to recreation, but let's say it's going to take them a week and it's a safety issue. We want to protect our students and we want to get this done right away. If it's...
But that's the same, we're still putting it out to contract in the same exact way. It's just who's managing the contract vehicles, I think, what we're discussing.
Well, I think that, Bob might be able to do it faster, or, he's...
My understanding is we have to go we have to go through rec anyway. If they can do it, they have to be able to do it, correct?
Again, I don't know where those rules are defined. I know that working collaboratively with the Recreation Department, that they are able and willing to handle most of our requests in a timely manner, right? If it was an emergency, and I stress an emergency, I think they up their timeline when required and when they're capable of doing it. That being said is that, yes, what has happened in the past is that if I called and it was outside of their scope after they came to look at it, let's say it was a 2-foot wide tree that was 100 feet tall, then depending on the year, sometimes they may be able to handle it, or it would come out of my maintenance operating budget to cover that. There is a line item in my maintenance operating budget that does say, maintenance and repairs and, leaves and trees and so forth. Not that we pay the Recreation Department, but it is something that we have carried in the past. That being said is that, sure, I agree that if it were to sit with me or if it were to sit with Brendan when that situation comes up again, whether they took it out of their bank or we took it out of the warrant article here, at some point, someone's going to run out of money, and then I think that conversation is still going to happen. So part of me believes that putting in recreation gives the kickstart to this, and we can see how far the trees go. I have a list of trees right now that we're watching that recreation is aware of. I fully support keeping it, on the school committee side, and then we watch it and monitor it here, and then if need be, again, we'll still continue to work with recreation. And then see how far that money gets us, and then if we need to ask for more, we'll ask for more. It may be a one-time thing that we ask for, and then in the future, we continue to have recreation expand their budget.
Bobby, I don't understand what your preference is, and I know it's probably difficult for you to come out and say it because there's, you got to work with everybody, including capital budget, recreation, et cetera. Can you just tell us which way you would prefer it to be?
I'd rather make one phone call and say, there's a tree that is broken. That's it.
You want control?
No, I would rather make one phone call to recreation and say, there's a tree that's broken.
So does that mean you want us to change this, or that you want to keep it the way it is?
It would be more convenient for me. The reason I was in favor of asking for this is that it was hitting my operating budget. Right? So without affecting my operated budget, if the request either happens in the school committee like we're asking for, I will be happy. If it goes into the recreation and I don't have to deal as much or at all with funds coming out for tree work, I will be happy. So I would prefer to make one phone call to recreation and say, this tree needs to be removed.
So you want us to change it?
I would prefer that.
Madam Chair, can I
But I
have a
want the
solution?
committee to.
Well, you got to tell us what you want, because
I had the
we're probably
opposite
going to...
impression, but.
Solution, I have a recreation commission tomorrow. I can bring that to them. Do we need an answer tonight?
We don't.
Eric.
I think the important piece here is sometimes we are being charged by other departments for tree removal. So if the money sits at rec, and Bob can make a call, and the tree can be removed in a timely way, and we don't get charged, that's fine. The trouble will be the timeliness, and then we don't want to see a bill for this work. Now, if there is more work than budgeted, that's a bigger issue the town has to solve, but I think what Bob struggles with is it doesn't make sense for all of us to be sort of charging each other for the work that we need done. We don't have the equipment to do it. There are going to be times when we have to contract this out, and again, if that contracting can be coordinated through rec, that's fine. I think what you're trying to avoid is an invoice that you didn't plan on, that you don't have a budget for tree removal in your current budget.
Very well spoken, yes.
If we if we let rec do the whole warrant article, would that prevent that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they would increase their request right now for $50,000 to our request,
100,000.
additional of $50,000 for a total $100,000.
Okay.
Now, again, there is no mechanism that I'm aware of currently that says now that they have $100,000 that they can't go spend it all on fences and walkways and then run out of money for trees. So we will have to have a different conversation, right?
MOU conversation with those funds.
Look, is there a way to earmark that?
But either way, right now they don't have an account for excess tree work. So we're still having the same conversation. I'm still ahead of the game. If we were to call them 6 months from now and say, can you contribute through your warrant article to pay for this tree?
And that's what I would approach rec with was, based on the funds that we were asking for originally, we'd like to earmark those funds, and then again, we bring it down, flush it out the other side, see what comes out.
And I think what I would ask you all is your intent to say you would remove it, because Recreation will still have to vote on this as well, too, for increasing their request and then going to town meeting and asking for it,
So
which they may or may not.
can I say the intent would be to allow it to move over if we can get it earmarked for tree removal so it doesn't get spent somewhere else and then we don't have the money or we can't request them to use the money for tree removal.
You can certainly bring that there.
Melissa?
Yeah.
So if there's an article that passes town meeting just for tree removal, that's all that it can be spent on. I don't think that there's anything else that's needed. So depending on the wording or the verbiage of the
That's why I
warrant
think
article.
it's more of an apportionment kind of allocation conversation, because they're going to portion the 100K. What's our percentage we're going to get out of that 100K? is really what needs
Recreation's
to be defined.
request,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, I'm sorry. Recreation's request is $50,000 for trees, sidewalk, and fence maintenance, where the schools was specific to just tree maintenance.
Right.
So now if we add $50,000 to their request, it'll be $100,000 for trees, sidewalk, and fence maintenance. Again, depending on any other conversations that we have of how they want to earmark that money.
Through the chair, can the warrant article be amended to say with a certain amount of money deemed just for school tree removal? Can there be wording changes to the warrant article that will just satisfy our concerns?
This board's wish, depending on the rec department agreeing to that.
It sounds
Through the chair.
messy.
So Nicole, a CLEN can be established under that warrant article where they'll actually have CLENs in that budget that say, hey, here's a line item that this money can be spent on, I think is what,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
So sorry that it got so confusing. I guess, again, the intent is whether or not you would like to consider removing it, if rec would take on that
So
workload.
I'll make the motion then that we remove, I can't remember which number warrant article it was.
It is warrant article number
We intend.
4-26, tree maintenance for $50,000.
I move that we intend to remove the warrant article for $50,000 for tree removal to be placed under the recreation warrant article.
to replace it, yeah, not to replace, but
To add
to
to.
be
Said to
added
replace
to,
one, yeah.
added to the Recreation Department's request.
Yeah. To be added to the Recreation Department's request. God, that was painful.
It is painful, I'm sorry, but that's,
And request for,
And
Earmark.
say that, and allocation of tree budget for the school committee in the pound of
I think it's
$50,000.
messy. I'm going to vote against it. I think it's messy.
maybe you can bring it to Recreation tomorrow, talk to them, and then come back.
I think we need a vote here first, though.
We have to just say, this is all intend,
Yep.
so if, and it contingent on rec doing it, right?
It's contingent on them agreeing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a second?
because they may have feedback as well, too,
Yeah.
so.
Right. Say,
He said we intend.
right.
Do anyone want a second it? No?
Motion's defeated.
Okay.
Oh, are we seconding it?
Someone needs
I'll
to second it.
second
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Any more questions? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just think it's too fluffy. It's not a hardcore, it's not well thought out and projected. You know, we should talk to rec, they should make the change.
I thought that's what we're
That's what
giving
we're
them
doing.
permission
We're
to
giving them
do. is
permission
talk
to
rec
make
So I can bring
tomorrow.
it to Recreation Commission
You can
tomorrow
bring
and
it to
introduce
rec,
that.
you can bring it to rec without doing anything. You can ask them, and if it's agreed upon, I don't know, I just don't get the point of the motion.
Did you bring it to them, they change their request, and then we just
Yeah, because we could vote on it. If they accept it, they could vote on it tomorrow, say, yep, we'll up ours to 100,000, and then we can bring it back our next meeting. We can vote to remove it and be
Maybe
done.
that's a path.
Without
That
going
seems the-
3 meetings.
The cleanest.
Why don't we do that?
What are we
but
doing?
I thought the point was we vote to intend so that rec knows that we
But he
intend.
can-
Yeah, so
But I don't think we need to vote on that. I think you can just say what you need to say to rec.
Okay.
What we want, and then I don't
I
think
will
we have to.
withdraw my motion.
Sure.
I'll withdraw my motion. I'll bring that to rec tomorrow.
All right.
There was one other warrant-related thing that I wanted to talk about. So the Marshall Simons bathroom, possibly rescoping that to reduce the number of bathrooms, to make the number a little more tenable.
Where's this?
Oh, the field.
The
bathroom.
field.
The new field?
No, the field, what do we call it? The
Bathroom.
field bathroom.
Fieldhouse?
Field
Facility.
Yeah, bathroom facility. So there was, 16 bathrooms in there? 16 stalls
Yep.
per? So there was some pushback about the number of stalls and the cost that accrues. So maybe if we half the number of stalls for that facility, it may bring this cost of that warrant article a little bit more to a tenable spot.
Do you know the numbers?
The warrant article itself was for 1.3,
1.6.
1.6. So if you reduce the bathrooms by half, potentially you could probably cut, like a couple $100,000 off that conservatively.
And how would the bathroom, oh, I'm sorry, through the chair. How would the bathrooms be distributed amongst male versus female and whatever? I want to make sure that we don't
Well,
short
16
anyone.
of each.
Are they going to be
Current plan.
co-ed? Are they going to be,
No, 16
male,
of each in the
female?
co-ed, so it'd be, I'm assuming, my thought would be 8 and 8, right? Like, I think that's still an adequate number of,
That is a lot.
it's still 800% more than we have now.
Yeah. Through the chair, Bob, how did you come up with the number 16?
So there's an occupancy calculation based on like the intent of, right, of the facility. So if you look at 3 fields facility and you were to say the number of players on the team plus parents, or if you look at just the school itself and say that there's 900 plus students, and if 900 students were to go outside, then what happens is now that facility would require that number. That number is strictly based on the number of bleacher seats that are available. So while we currently don't have permanent bleacher seats, we're not required to.
Okay.
But if that is the target number of saying that we want that many number of students, staff, parents on the field, and we want seating for that, doesn't matter where they're placed on that facility, and since it's 3 fields, it would be a combination of all, then that would be a target number. Now, if you were to shoot for less than that, let's say cut it in half, that means the capacity of seating that's permanent would have to be less. The nature seating does not count as permanent seating, which is a good feature. So it gives you the seating capacity, but they don't count against that number. So that does give us some leeway, which means it leaves about, cutting it in half, about 500 people for capacity as far as permanent seating goes. Right? So just for argument's sake, Varsity Field has 1,500 seats.
But we have no bathrooms there, so.
Correct.
No, I know.
So.
You're saying based on the capacity of the field, legally, we have to have the 16, no.
Only if you have permanent seating.
Don't have permanent seating.
Okay, so then it's just arbitrary, and I cannot imagine 32 bathrooms being needed.
Well, that includes urinals as well,
But
so
still,
it's.
we have one porta potty there right now, a single one.
Again, that's food for thought, like something, I don't know that we necessarily did adjudicate it tonight. It's just something to think about, because there may be some pushback come to
Can we
town
get
meeting.
someone else to the field, is there a consultant involved?
So, two things. One is that I have 3 estimates in the warrant article. One is for, let me double check, but it's 500,000, I'm sorry, it's 1 million, 1.5, and 2 million. The reason we shot for the target of 1.5 million is because that is a capacity number of bathrooms that we would be looking for if we wanted to ever expand that facility. 2, that is one that we have a recent quote on a close town to us. So we have recent numbers of that build, and it's an exact diagram of the building that they built. So we kind of know roughly based on that what the size is, what the drawings are, the schematics, et cetera. But we do have the ability to definitely reduce that. Just putting 2 bathrooms in there in a facility, I hate to use a company name, but it's not. We can't just go buy a Reed's Ferry shed and then just put a toilet in there. Half of the work is going to be bringing water and sewer to it, and then the other half of it is going to be making it a compliant building, so it's going to have to go through building code, planning, et cetera. So just that structure alone, plus electricity, everything is part of the number. At some point, economy to scale, toilets aren't $1 million. They're a couple $100 a piece, tiles a couple $100, so cutting it in half doesn't mean the price goes in half. But you are right, it would probably reduce it a couple $100,000. So, from going from 1.5 down to $1 million, we don't go from 16 down to 8, maybe we get 10. But it's definitely something that we would have to finalize a drawing. The committee or a subcommittee would definitely have to make a final recommendation. If they want to change it, we would have to get drawings completed, and then obviously we would go out to bid on this as well, so.
What does this building look like that has 32 toilets? Or does it? I mean,
That was 16.
How many stalls? Explain it a little bit.
16
We don't know what it looks like.
16 for the.
And why 16? Is that what the other town did?
Nope, it's 16 based on potential occupancy. And that potential occupancy is based on a number of permanent seating that we don't currently have.
Can you tell us what it looks like?
I can show you a picture if I can pull it up. It honestly is a rectangle. It almost looks like the facility that we have down at the Varsity Field. It has 3 doors on one side. So one is what you would call a typical boys' room, one is what you'd call a typical girls' room, and then the door in the middle is a family room. So it's a larger single-stall bathroom that is also handicap accessible. Each one of the bathrooms have handicap accessible stalls. On one corner of the building, there's a 10 by 10 room. That room could be used as a concession stand, could be used as a storage room. In the drawings, it has a roll-up window on it, and then it has a single 3-foot door to walk into. And then there's a utility room that's about 6 feet by 6 feet that has your electrical, water, et cetera, that comes into that facility.
Are there 16 actual stalls in each side?
There are, let me double check.
Probably should have held off on this one.
Would you want to punt it?
Yeah, we can punt it. Like I said, it's just, it's feedback I got after
Maybe
it
Bob
was
can
presented at
kinda
Capitol, like
take it
maybe
back.
there's some ways to conserve a few dollars to make the number, overall number a little more tenable, so we don't run into as much pushback at town meeting.
So my thought about this is 16 sounds like a lot, but is it?
Well, if you have 3 games running at once, right, like,
Then it's not. And so if we're going to do this and do it right, why would we change that? If that's the number that is really the right number, why would we change that to save a few bucks?
I'm not saying, I mean, I think 8 is monumentally better than what we have with the one Porta-John, right?
Well, sure it
And I agree,
is,
I agree with your point as well. I'm just taking the committee's temperature to say, hey, if this is a suggestion that we need to consider, how do we feel about it?
If you can convince me that we don't need them and that it would be better to have 12, then I would be like, sure. But what I'm hearing is we need to cut the costs, we need to save money, and not the material behind it that says we should make it fewer.
No, and it's a fair point. Like I said, this is more as a temperature check.
I mean, Simons Park has 2 each.
Yeah, 2 each. And then, that was something we spoke about yesterday with Chris of the Ways and Means Subcommittee too, is the enduring cost of, maintenance on it, because it costs to run it, So we'd have to get a basis of estimate for that too, because that's another question that we're going to get asked. So these all things we need to start considering, because we're going to get asked before town meeting, right? And I think we need to come in eyes wide open and be prepared to answer these things.
The drawing itself, I have confirmed, has 16 in the woman's side. It has 5 stalls in the men's side and 6 urinals on the men's side.
Okay, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, okay. All right, so if you were going to take them away, you'd be taking them away from the woman's side.
Yeah.
And I'd say
I
no.
would disagree with that
Absolutely not.
completely.
16 and 16.
No,
Yeah.
no.
It's always the woman's
Always
room that
women
has
has a big, long line.
That's fine.
I can speak for many football games.
I'm not projecting
And
it,
other
but the
events.
facility looks
And other
something
events, right.
like
Nice.
that.
It reminds me of the one in Wilmington. Right, the
It's
Wilmington
not the
High School.
target, but close, yeah.
Reminds me of that, yeah.
Again, I'll share all of that's in the backup documents, et cetera, but that's, again, just a projected estimate based on a recent build with those drawings, those plans, that size. And again, we can go up or down from the number. I'm not recommending up, but I'm just saying that's the target.
Should we do the public hearing? I think, or any new or old business?
Do we have the budget update with the new numbers?
I do.
What did you cut out?
All new positions.
Oh, that's too bad.
Except for 2.
Is this what you took out?
That's what's left in.
I didn't either.
Up for the following. Can we sign this?
Oh, yep. I just wasn't sure who was going to be on the front.
All right. So do we want to discuss the budget or open the public hearing?
Yeah, we should talk about it first.
So again, you all have gone through this process before. The budget request went out to all sort of principals and directors and folks who run different cost centers. They sort of rebuild their budget from the beginning in terms of what they need, and we don't filter anything, and then we bring that to you all, and that budget came in with approximately 22 and a half new positions, and at roughly, was it 7.8% of an increase from fiscal 25 to fiscal 26. That was the cover sheet that you all had. Trying to get to that cover sheet now. So you all have had that. So it was a 7.4% increase. In order to get down to guideline, which is 4.5%, we had to cut $2 million from the operating, well, actually 1.8 million from the operating budget. So that's really the work that we've been doing over the last month and a half or so. So when we looked at the new position requests, we really went through every request. We were careful about our enrollment. The equation that we always use is program plus enrollment equals staffing, so we made sure that we were careful that we could maintain our program. Nicole also built in all the settled contract amounts and the step and lane movement that we're aware of, so this budget includes sort of all of that, and essentially what we felt like we could keep in terms of new positions were 2 new positions, and those are the highlighted ones in your sheet. So there's a .4 EL multilingual teacher at the middle school. There's currently a .6, so this would make that person full-time and give us some scheduling flexibility. We would like to go from a part-time to a full-time HR director, just given the volume of changes in hiring and other factors that we're seeing. That's roughly .6, because we currently split that position with town, so it's not a full-time salary. It is sort of a .6. So if I take the .4 and the .6 for HR, that is sort of 1. And then when we looked at adding a position, we really felt like the operations office needs some help. It's a very diverse office. It handles transportation, food service, maintenance, sort of custodians, cleanliness. We have building projects. You just talked about tree removal. There's a middle school project currently underway. There's 2 building projects happening. Once Fox Hill moves towards the construction phase, or even sort of slightly before that, when we did Memorial and the middle school, there are weekly meetings where the contractor, project manager are all getting together. My expectation would be Bob would be sort of attending those meetings and potentially off-site, out of the office. So we just need some support in the operations part of the district, and that's why we prioritized that. I'm very reluctant to support positions that aren't sort of directly facing or supporting kids. We're just at a point now where, with all the projects we have going on, I think it's an important year for us to make sure that the operational aspects of the school get taken care of. Then the other major change to the budget, which you'll hear that we had to incorporate into, is 5 years ago, teachers needed higher functioning computers. They had Chromebooks. They weren't sort of functioning well with all the teaching that we were doing during COVID, the remote teaching. The town used some of their federal relief money, I think around $500,000, to provide MacBooks to all staff and administrators, and we're on a 5-year replacement cycle, and obviously the federal relief dollars are no longer available, so Nicole has built in we're planning on replacing all devices and then incorporating that into sort of a 3-year lease purchase that we're going to roll every 5 years for new devices for all staff, so we can keep the staff's devices up and running. So that was a big add for us in this year's budget. So again, we're requesting that the school committee approve this number. Getting down to this number also meant that we are not purchasing the consumables that are needed with our current literacy program. So that was a question Mrs. Monaco asked. What happens if the warrant article doesn't pass? We need roughly $120,000, $130,000 worth of consumables. If by some reason the warrant doesn't pass, then I would probably ask you to amend, again, not the total number of the budget, but amend the budget where we would eliminate the assistant operations position and use that salary money, ask you to replace that for the materials that we would need for our current literacy program. So again, that would be sort of where we're at, but we would maintain the total budget at $67,601,202, and that would be at 4.5% increase over fiscal 25, and that again is at the guideline that we agreed to with the town's financial team.
I move we, oh, you want to do that afterwards, right? After the budget hearing? Okay.
You want to move that we open the hearing?
Yeah, move we open a budget hearing, public budget hearing.
Second.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
I vote yes. Budget hearing is open. No one in the room.
Anyone online?
I would like to thank the Ways and Means Subcommittee. They spent a lot of time on this budget, so Chris Campbell is I guess the chair of the subcommittee. So Chris, thank you and your team for going through the budget. They asked lots of detailed questions, and a lot of times I think the budget improves with their feedback. So thank you for your time.
Just for old time's sake, if he's watching, Lou Rubino, where are you? He was always the one person at the budget hearing.
I just have a question for Dr. Conti, and I think I know the answer. The special education teacher that Christina requested, is that coming out of the accommodated account, or is that the position we had to cut?
I think we're transferring that position due to caseload. So I think we're adding where we needed it, but not increasing the overall
headcount. Thank you.
I move we close the public budget hearing.
Second.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
I have a sort of technical question. Do we have to do the accommodated in the public hearing as well?
There's nobody here.
Well, again, let me do the public hearing just quickly in the accommodated in case there's any questions.
Did we open the public hearing?
No, while the public hearing's open, we didn't close it yet. So again, the accommodated is built student by student. Again, that was presented to the Ways and Means Subcommittee. The Ways and Means Subcommittee actually took a vote on that because it's a relatively stable budget, and so there was unanimous support by the subcommittee of the accommodated account. Nicole has worked with the town's financial team, again, and the 7% increase is what they were, is the guideline that they gave us for the accommodated account. And 7% seems sort of even, but again, Nicole can explain all the details if you want, but we tend to keep some of the circuit breaker from the prior year in reserve, and she used a little bit of that circuit breaker money to bring our budget and guideline down to 7%, because that's what the town needed us to do. So we still have some, but you had to use a small percentage?
Yeah, so typically, we had been 1 year in arrears, so we weren't depending on, like, if the state's going to fully fund circuit breaker or not. But I'm still comfortable with what we're dipping into, that 1 year reserves, to cover and come in at 7%.
Chris? Bob might have to.
So I actually had a budget question. So you guys voted to end the YRBS contract. Does that actually have an effect on the budget that it's in front of you?
No. Most of that was funded through a Leahy grant, so it wasn't an operating expense.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll make another hand, but that's just Chris.
So I still move that we close the public budget hearing.
Still second it.
Okay. Mr. Brooks?
I will also still vote yes.
Ms. Wojcik, Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
I vote aye. Exited the public hearing.
Okay. The total operating budget, you got the numbers? Okay.
You got it?
I have it. I move that we approve the school budget salaries account of $58,506,443. It's a lot of money.
Are you doing separate?
They have to be separate.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote. All opposed? 5-0.
I move the non-salary budget in the amount of $9,094,759.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 5-0.
I move the total budget in the amount of $67,601,202. That is a 4.5% increase.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 5-0.
I move the school accommodated salaries budget, $5,590,745.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
I move the school accommodated non-salaries budget, $10,675,266.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 5-0.
I move the total accommodated account budget, $16,266,011, a 7% increase.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 5-0.
I feel like John Vanilla.
All right. Concludes this evening. Anyone have a motion?
Adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.